And we're live. I'm Anthony Johnson, founder and CEO of 21 Studios, here today live on 21 Live with Ross Jeffries, an alumni speaker of the 21 Convention now, as well as the founder of Speed Seduction, and in my view, the godfather of the pickup seduction community. Ross?
I don't kill anyone or put horses' heads in anybody's beds, but yeah, not yet.
Okay. Well, one of the four horsemen of seduction, we'll say, at minimum. At minimum.
I'll buy that.
So Ross, thanks for coming on. You're in San Diego right now, right?
I am in San Diego. I left LA about 2.5 years ago, and I couldn't be more happy. This really is, for me, my home. I've made more connections and more new friends, and it's a great place for entrepreneurs as well. There's a great, thriving community of entrepreneurs here. So if you're in LA or any of those cities nearby San Diego, get the hell out and come here.
A lot of our speakers are from LA. DJ Fuji, Robbie Kramer, a couple others, I think. So good company down there.
And by the way, one more thing. Thank you. I'm sorry, before we get going,
Go ahead.
People bitch about the fact I interrupt, but I want to express thanks to you, because that experience of being able to be a speaker at 21 Convention was so uplifting for me and so enjoyable. It really was a remarkable event, and I know that you exhausted yourself. I don't know how you did it. Certainly in my advanced years, I couldn't do it, but I saw you sick and you were getting sick.
Yeah, I ended up with a double pink eye viral at the end of it, so I was a fucking wreck. But
you put your heart and energy into it. On a fabulous event. Thank you. I hope I'm invited back next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you had an excellent fucking time. It was just like you're saying. It was very difficult, and I mean, that was the most amazing. That was your first time speaking at 21 Con, and that was absolutely the best event we've ever done. So your first impression is particularly fucking like top notch.
And I'm glad. And we'll get off this topic in a second, but I really one of my big treats, Socrates. That guy is a real stand-up guy. I wish I had a friend like that who lived near me.
Yep, he's one of a kind, and he's hard to find. Yep.
Okay, let's get to it.
Let's do it. So you have a workshop coming up this year. You're only one in North America, but just before we went live, we're also talking about like why your coaching is different and why it focuses on mindset and why it focuses on fundamentals. You actually called it like an operating system. So let's talk a bit about that while we're on the call today.
Yeah. So one of the things I recognize, bear in mind that I've been teaching now for 30 years. It's a long time. And so early on in my career, I noticed something very interesting. Right around, this is going to sound crazy to people, I'm going to make reference to like 1996, 1997, when probably a lot of the guys watching this weren't even in puberty. But I've been around a long time, and I've literally taught thousands of people. That's not a marketing thing. I can honestly claim that. So I noticed something very interesting. About 30% of the guys who came to my seminars were returning students, and they were returning because it really worked for them. I mean, it really worked for them. They went after it in a self-disciplined, self-motivated way, and they got themselves hot girlfriends way out of their league, or they got like the love of their life, and a few of the unlucky suckers got married. You know, I share your opinion. I utterly share. I've never been married. I regret sometimes never having had children, but I don't regret never having been married. So I share your opinion on it. But in any case, those were 30%. Another and I've changed this. Now it's more like, I want to say that I've changed the ratios. So pay attention, guys out there, please if you'll extend me a little slack here as I explain this. Then I get 30% of the people who are just newbies. They'd never been to a seminar before.
Yeah.
But the other 30% were people who would repeat over and over and over and over again. And they'd raise their hand and ask questions like, Ross, do you remember in your 1994 New Jersey Masters tape series? Tape 3, side 2, 25 minutes in, you said the following language pattern. And my response would be, well, first of all, no, I don't remember, because often I don't remember what I teach. I'm so prolific as a teacher. But the second thing is I would say, have you actually used this stuff? And they'd say, well, 2 or 3 times, but something always seems to be getting in the way. I thought, that's interesting. What is that something that gets in the way? It really bothered me as a teacher, because my teaching arose out of my own pain and my own lack of understanding about how women work, and my own way of thinking about the entire problem was incorrect. And what I came to realize is there's certain operating system errors that I had to debug in these guys. So now people come to my seminars, and within a few months, it's like 70 to 75% of the guys actually get it, making changes. And it's bad for my business because only some of them come back to see what else I've got.
Yeah.
You understand the business model.
It works so good they don't need it anymore.
Yeah,
Or they don't need the good.
It's not a good business model, but it's good for me as someone who's devoted as a teacher. So here's what I found out about the operating system for men. And I want to introduce it sort of through a back door, because I know that there's a big overlap between guys who are into this area of life, but also who want to do self-improvement in general, like improve their body, improve their diet, make more money, right? We talk about finances and improving your health, et cetera, et cetera. So you're a really, really smart guy. I'll throw out this question to you, and maybe members in the audience can think about it themselves. In the last 5 years, how many millions of copies of books, not individual titles, but millions of copies of books have been sold on the topics of losing weight, getting rich, and finding love? Throw out a ballpark guess, Anthony. You're a smart guy.
Easily hundreds of millions.
So why don't we see, I agree. Why don't we see hundreds of millions of skinny, super rich couples madly in love with their ideal person? Something is wrong in between the information/inspiration and the implementation. There's a huge gap. Now, here's the thing. It's not that these books don't teach mindset. They do teach mindset. So there's something and so does everyone in the Pluto community. There's something profoundly incomplete in their understanding of what's going on there. I'll give you a hint on what it is. If these books were about topics like how to groom your guinea pig or hamster, or how to win at checkers, or how to be a champion at crocheting scarves, would there be that big an implementation gap?
Probably not.
Probably not, because those topics don't carry the big emotional buttons that love. And if you've ever been in a relationship and you're listening to this and your partner pushed your buttons, just raise your hand. I can't see you. And if you've ever pushed your partner's button, raise your hand. Money, which is about survival.
Yep.
He doesn't have a button on money. And finally, losing weight, which is about personal appearance, which is about a 3-letter word. Starts with an E, ends with an O, rhymes with she-go. Say it with me, Anthony. What is that word?
Pretty sure it's ego.
Ego. Now, you people who are watching me, point to the person who has a problem with their ego. Everyone can point at me, but point at yourself as well. So inside of these emotional buttons, there's a whole series of subroutines, of operating system errors in terms of the way we interpret our success or failure, in terms of our ways of thinking, feeling, responding, acting. In areas of life, they're very emotionally charged. And these responses are going to come up with a lot of power. Not because you're some identity called a self-sabotager, or you're low on some mystical fluid called self-esteem. Sometimes in my seminars, I say to guys, who wants more confidence with women? And I'd ask your audience, who wants more confidence with women? And my answer is, okay, I've got a 10-gallon jug of confidence fluid up in my hotel room. It's only $1 a gallon. I'll drill a hole in the top of your head and pour it in because you're a couple of quarts low. So to get the point that confidence is not a thing. My point here is that in these areas of life, these old ways of thinking, feeling, responding have so much momentum simply because they've come up so many times before. And the mind works on momentum, repetition, and familiarity. We may be attracted to novelty, but the fact of the matter is we work off of momentum, repetition, and familiarity. And let me address that M in momentum.
Well, hang on a second. I had a question here. So based on what you're saying, this has a large correspondence to age, right? I mean, a lot of your clients too are older, I think, but
no, I have clients at every age. No, because not necessarily at all. Because think about this, guys who come to these events and seminars have a lot of, I don't know what the word is, a lot of pain, a lot of ruins on these topics, a lot of old ways of thinking, feeling, responding.
A lot of trauma.
And so when they go to improve by doing visualization and positive thinking, and don't get me wrong, I teach that stuff. But when they go to improve, all this other stuff is going to come up. And so what I have the unique insight into is looking at these guys and figure out what the operating system is that keeps guys stuck. Because think about this metaphor. We all know what an operating system is. I'm using a Mac right now, so I'm running OS. What are you using?
Windows 10 Pro.
They're using Windows. But the operating system essentially tells the computer how to work, how to function. The application programs would be like PowerPoint or Microsoft Word or you name it. The problem is if there's a bug in the operating system, changing or updating the application program isn't going to help you. So to stretch this metaphor a little bit better, guys are trying to upgrade their application program. The application program for being more attractive. The application program for fuck closing. The application program for getting the 9s and 10s. But their operating system for learning is fucked up.
Ross, so, I can speak to experience too. I haven't been in the pickup community anywhere near as long as you have, but I've been around for over 11 years. And yeah, the majority of guys are focused on like very specific stuff, and they never get to the deeper stuff. And they stay like continually fucked up over time. This is a huge issue back, especially back in the late 2000s when I was more heavily involved with pickup.
And see, most guys' solution is the following. They just pick up a different system. They think if they just pour more content through their bad learning system, their bad operating system, the new content will somehow magically bring results.
There are hundreds of thousands of young men on YouTube doing this with all kinds of pickup content. It sucks.
It sucks, and even if the advice is somehow correct, the ability to implement it is going to be severely handicapped by these old patterns.
100% agree. 100%.
Well, I teach a lot of metaphor. One of the differences between me and other teachers, and I'm not putting people down. I recognize that I did that for a long time. It came out of my own insecurity, and I owe the community an apology for that. It also came from the fact that I did see that I have unique insights that other people don't have. So be that as it may, let me use the metaphor of a train. Let's say you have a 1,000-ton train going 100 miles an hour. That's a lot of force. Newton's equation, force equal F equal m times a, that's a lot of force. And your new ways of thinking are like that little railroad switch that's going to change the train's direction to a new track. If you think that just pulling that switch, you're going to suddenly immediately change that train into the new track without it derailing.
A lot of guys think that, yeah.
You're deluding yourself. So my insight and what people, part of what they get from coming to a seminar is having me lead them through this. This is one thing to hear it. It's another thing to be in my presence and have me transform you through this. So here are the major operating system errors. First and foremost is guys' ratio of thinking to acting is way off. For every 1 unit of taking action in the world, they'll spend 100 or 200 or 500 units of thinking about what they're going to do or what they did. This is a big problem. So I've come up with some ways of getting guys around that. The second problem is, I'll illustrate it with a story. I had a student who took one of my courses on not a seminar, but a recorded course. And after it took him about 90 days to get good at it. And here's the real, this is a true story. He goes to a club, and this is a guy who's a 29-year-old virgin. Now try to understand that. It's a really fucked up thing.
I'm 29 myself, actually, so it's interesting, to say the least.
Well, I have guys come to some of my seminars who are 48 and 50 over. Not all of them. Let me make this very clear. The seminars are not for guys who are only for guys to that extreme. I have guys who are very successful doctors, lawyers, and they come and they say, you know, Ross, I don't get it. I'm disciplined. I'm confident. I'm intelligent. I built my own business. I'm a successful professional. Why can't I use the same intelligence and the same drive to be successful with women? And I'm saying, well, it's not the same kind of problem. It's not the same kind of intelligence.
Yeah.
So in any event, this student took one of my online courses, and he went to the club and he was making out. Well, he approached this woman, and you know these women who are so attractive, guys walk up and then they just make a U-turn.
Yeah.
You don't even talk. He goes up there and he says, I don't know what you're doing with these other guys, but it's not working on me, and I wanted to meet you. 30 minutes later, they're making out. And he just comes up for air and looks around, and people are like, giving him what the fuck looks. They're not actually doing this, but they're like giving him the what the fuck look. So he decides he's going to play it cool. He asks for her number, which is a big error. He should have tried to take her home right then and there. I understand that. You understand that. Anyway, he gets her card with her cell phone number on it, brings it home. He's so excited, he wanks to it.
Wait. To a business card?
No, to the thought of her, not to the card.
Oh, I'm like, wait, what in the fuck? What?
Yeah, I got to be more clear about that. Anyway, so he puts it on his desk, and he figures, I'm going to be cool. I'm going to wait 3 days for a color. Third day, he goes to grab the card. He can't find it on his desk. He fucking trashes his condo. Spends like 2 hours trashing his condo. And he thinks, holy shit, I threw it in the dumpster with the trash. It's dumpster night. Now, he lived in one of these huge condo complexes, and there are like 5 dumpsters. He spent the next 3 or 4 hours diving through every dumpster. Dirty diapers, used cat litter, stinking, rotting garbage, you name it. After 90 minutes, finally, the last dumpster, after 90 minutes of the last dumpster, he comes up, no card. And he calls me and he says, Ross, tells me the story of what happened. He says, I've been depressed for 6 weeks. My old self came back. I can't even talk to a woman. Why do I always fuck up? And being a hypnotist, I thought, wow, what an interesting hypnotic phenomenon. He had to hallucinate away everything he did right. Everything. He had to forget about how he got into that really confident state, how he approached her, how he accelerated it sexually. He forgot all of it because he was looking at his progress through the pain of his past. And without the right guidance and the right discipline, the right training, that will often happen. If you guys have been struggling and not seeing the progress you want to see, even though the material you're working with is good, that's one of the major reasons in an area of life that's been painful.
I think there's a saying that in like self-defense that you default to your level of training.
Exactly correct.
Default to it. Yeah.
Exactly correct. So I figured that's really, really interesting. How can I create a way for guys so they can come at their learning from a state of neutrality? Because a lot of people talk about positive thinking. I say, no. In an area of life that's been painful, before you get to positive, you got to get to neutral. You have to be in a neutral state to look at what you did and first and foremost ask, what did I do right?
Yeah.
Because guys, the thing is, in this area of life, it's going to be tilted. Your thinking is going to be tilted towards looking for pain. He's an extreme example. He's a very extreme example, but he's not that far off from what a lot of guys in this area will do.
100%. There are thousands of guys that do stuff that are a degree away from that, or a lot of degrees, but yeah, very similar. I've done shit like that 100%.
The common solution is to not even see it. These patterns are so deeply ingrained, they can't even see it.
Yep.
2 metaphors I'll give you. And again, when you come and learn with me, you'll find that I teach a metaphor a lot. Metaphor is a way of creating a bridge from where you're currently at to where you're going to be. It's an extremely powerful teaching tool. Another metaphor I'll give you comes from my mom. May her memory be for a blessing. She's one of my great teachers. And my mom said, if you dip your glasses in shit, even the roses will look brown.
It's good. It's good.
So that's another metaphor.
Well,
so yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, speaking of like training and stuff, so you have one North American event you're doing this year, one and only one. It's coming up in about a month and a half, I think.
March 24th and 25th.
Yep.
You have links there. I don't even know what links you're using. And I want to invite people to come.
Yeah, so let me make it clear for the viewers, like live and then watching this after the fact. Underneath the video in the description, there's a link right at the top. If you click that, you can learn more about Ross's workshop. It's that simple. So,
and let me just, I will get back to the teaching here, because regardless of whether people can stop and really think it through and see, wait a minute, Ross Jeffries has trained, he's trained well over 10,000 people. He's seen every kind of problem and every level of success. So it's pretty certain he can train me. So what I want to get back to is, the event is March 24th and 25th. And the reason I'm only doing one is I'm transitioning into teaching and speaking about persuasion and selling. I have a new book coming out, in the beginning of March.
Okay.
Topic, and I'll tell you about it later. I don't want to distract you.
I do want to ask you actually. So you have a European event coming up this year, or where's the other event?
Sometime in June in London.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll keep an eye out for it. We'll let you guys know.
For that one.
Yep.
So here's the thing. What I recognized is another operating system error is the way guys look at their learning. Guys tend to dwell on their mistakes. When I do my seminars, one of the early things I do, you see, the first morning, I have to say, is about shaking guys up, taking their old ways of thinking, feeling, and believing, and confusing the fuck out of them. I don't leave them confused, but I find people's old ways of learning, often you need to shake them up and give them counterexamples and get them thinking, wait a minute, what the fuck?
Yep.
So
you're triggering them, basically.
Triggering them. I'm agitating the fuck out of them because they're agitated anyway. Yep. And in hypnosis and in healing, one of the things we're taught is if a client has a response, take it, use it, hijack it, don't fight it. So in any event, one of the things I also noticed that these guys who are stuck are doing are dwelling on their mistakes. I say to my students early on, who here has ever made a big mistake with a woman? And everyone raises their hand. I say, okay, who here, keep your hands up if and only if you dwelt on that mistake. Every hand stays up. Keep your hands up if you dwelt on that mistake at least 1,000 times. Almost all hands stay up. And I'll call on someone and say, how often do you think about this? Every day. Well, how many times during the day? Like at least 2 or 3 times every hour. So here's a rule of the mind. There's no difference to your brain between what you dwell on, what you rehearse over and over, and what you're programming it to do. Doesn't that make sense? You're dwelling on it, and so the brain, you're programming it. You're saying to the brain, just do the same thing. So naturally, when you get in that same context, what is the brain going to do? What you've been rehearsing it to do. Now, here's the more insidious, the more challenging part about it. You're not even aware that you're rehearsing it. You just think you're trying. You're not doing this to yourself in an effort to fuck yourself up. You're trying to learn from the mistake. But your way of learning is actually just guaranteeing that the mistake is going to be repeated. So what do we have? We have ineffective behavior, dwelling on that behavior, programming it back in, more ineffective behavior. And you have like a feed-forward loop of failure.
And it's automatic too, is what you're saying.
Automatic. But it's so automatic, it's so ingrained that you can't see it. It's like a deep bug in the operating system of your computer that you cannot see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's one of the major learning areas. So one of the things you learn from me when you come to the event is how to stop dwelling on it. And I tell people, look, you don't have an attraction problem. You don't have an anxiety problem. You have a fucked up learning system.
Yeah, this is all bullshit that the pickup community teach. You have confidence problem, you have traction problem, you have approaching problem.
No, it's a learning system problem. Because I come at this from a much different perspective and angle, I go, so one of the things you'll learn at the seminar is a very effective learning system. I call it learning confidence. So there's performance confidence. When you've done something well 1,000 times, 1,001, you can realistically have confidence you'll do it right. The problem with many guys in this community is they want performance confidence before they do any performing or very little performing. So that doesn't work for them. So one of the things you'll find is when you come and see me personally, the advantage is you not only get these concepts, but I demonstrate with people as I'm teaching it. And also I'm communicating with people on the unconscious level. This is no bullshit. I've been doing hypnosis and the rest of it for 30 years. Doesn't mean I'm going to hypnotize you, but the way in which I teach creates communication with the unconscious mind and transformational change. I don't consider myself...
I'm curious.
Yes.
I'm curious, how big is the workshop going to be? Like 10 people, 150? Like, I'm not familiar with the intricacies of it.
We usually keep it to 50 people. We already have 30 people signed up, and these are people who are my own students and people in my own coaching inner circle. So we have about...
That's a good sized group, excellent sized group.
Yeah, I don't want to make it any bigger than that. And we are working on making sure that we have women there for me to demonstrate on. It's one thing for you to hear about this stuff, but when you see me bring women to near orgasm from just talking to them, and I teach some erotic touches that get women very hot and bothered, that's a whole different thing. When you see it, it's one thing to read about it in the game. I had the student say to me, you know, Rob, he was actually a student of mine. He was at the 21 convention.
Okay.
He took me for lunch. He said, I have to make a confession. Please don't be insulted because you saved my life. I won't be insulted. Trust me. People have said a lot of things. I'm no longer offended by anything.
That sounds like good. That sounds like good news. You saved his life. Like,
well, I'm only offended. He saved his life by following my teaching. Whatever. I told him I'm not offended by anything. Really, Anthony, the only thing that offends me these days is radical stupidity and feminism. So I think they're sort of conjoined, aren't they?
We're very much on the same page with that.
Yeah, we're sort of to say radical feminism and radical stupidity is sort of what's the word? It's gilding the lily. It's oxymoronic. It's like not oxymoronic. How do you say it? Where it's redundant. It's redundant.
Yeah, it's redundant. Yeah, it's doubling down on it. Yeah, very little feminism is not radical at this point. Like almost none.
Or stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, so he said, "Don't be offended." But when I first read about you in the game, I thought, "This is batshit. This guy's batshit crazy." And I said, "Yeah, I understand that. And the reason it appears to be batshit crazy is because it's so counter what most people are teaching, and it's so far outside of even how people are thinking about it."
Yeah, that was my experience to some extent when I was young, when I found your work. I was 17 when I found the game and your work. Actually, your work was some of the first stuff I found. It was probably the first things I found.
I have my old book here, here. Because I knew we'd be talking today. Here's,
the young Ross.
But this is me, what I used to look like, gentlemen. This is my old book. I'm ashamed of parts of it, but a lot of it still is applicable. So one of the things is you can try to learn things on your own, but to have a transformational experience and cut your learning curve, I guarantee you, come and see me. And it doesn't matter. I prefer you use my system for meeting women, for seducing women. Regardless of that, even if you choose to use someone else's system, the transformational experience of undergoing that change, so those operating system errors are no longer there, and you're radically out of your own way. You're radically out of your own way is profoundly important. Now, Saturday evening, we have a special bonus event. And that is, I'm going to be doing a 3-hour event on my persuasion technology. I call it Subtle Words That Sell. How to get your clients to convince themselves to buy without pushing, pressuring, or pitching. And it's sort of like a mini workshop on my new book, which is of the same title. So one of the advantages, you'll also get to come to that Saturday night bonus session. And if you're in sales of any kind, come to that session, and what you'll learn there, I guarantee you'll up your sales by at least 30%.
And that's included with the workshop?
Yep. And this is more than going to pay for what you do.
Speaking of your book, by the way, when does the book come out and where can we get it?
It's in final edit now. I'm hoping to have it ready to go by the very beginning of March on Amazon. Okay. So if you punch in Subtle Words That Sell at the beginning of March, you should be able to find it. It's in final edit now, and we're getting the cover designed. I'm really excited about it. I made 3 or 4 attempts at writing this thing over the last 11 years, 12 years, and just fell on its face. And I finally got it and gelled it and put it together. So what I can promise people is not just learning the speed seduction system that they read about in the game and the rest of it, but a transformational experience of consciousness so that they come at this whole challenge in their life from a completely different state of consciousness and a completely different learning system. Now, the question could logically arise, can you take that same shift and apply it to other areas of your life? And my answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, actually.
Yes, absolutely yes, you can. Which for me is the real joy of it. The thing is teaching us seduction stuff is important. How to approach women, how to get them turned on, how to, quote, close the deal. I get all of that. It's very important. I love doing it. But listen to my words carefully. It's relatively trivial compared to transforming your state of consciousness in terms of how you approach areas of life that up until now have been painful.
Because it sounds like, in a way, medicine, like you're treating the problem, not the symptom.
Me? I'm treating the problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You're treating the problem instead of the symptom. That's what most coaches do, I think, at least in the pickup community.
Well, and and I think it's because I do come at it from the perspective of the healer. I should say who this seminar is not for,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's not people. If you're out to prove me an asshole, I plead guilty. My cat is here and she's meowing at a crow. This is the reality of my life. My cat, one of my cats, is always on top of everything.
Yeah.
She's bothered by a huge crow that would probably kill
And
her.
that's not Sargi, right? Sargi died a couple years ago, I think.
15 years ago. This is
Oh shit.
Taz. Sargi was actually, there was a cat named Sarge, from which the whole term sergeant actually really came.
Yep.
But who's the seminar not for? It's not for guys who want to prove I'm an asshole, because I'm guilty as charged. I am a big, puckered, striated asshole, in the sense that I believe in what I'm doing and I have no tolerance for stupidity. I don't suffer fools gladly.
And no apology, it sounds like, too.
No apologies for that.
Which is
So
rare.
Yeah, don't come. If you're one of those people who is looking for someone to be your guru and to think for you, please do not come. I am looking for people who can think for themselves. I start every seminar by saying a disclaimer. Nothing I'm going to teach is true with a capital T. And it's not science. It's just my map, my model. It's subject to change and correction and improvement, and it has throughout the years, including contributions from students. So don't come if that's you. Number 3, don't come if your intention is that you're going to learn all this stuff and use it to hurt people. I went through that angry phase and I used it to use women. And don't take any shit from women, but if you are hateful, then you're still making women the center of your consciousness.
That's a good way to put it. That's a very good way to put it.
You're still being, you're going to be gynocentric in a hateful way.
Interesting.
So I don't want.
I like the way you put that a lot. That's actually that's brilliant. Very good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Here's the people who ought to come. If you're really ready to make this kind of transformation, and you're the kind of person who thinks the systems I've tried seem to work for other people, but they're not working for me, I can help you with that. The second thing is, if you are someone who is a professional or has your own business or an entrepreneur, and you're thinking, I really don't understand why I haven't been able to apply that same intelligence and persistence and discipline in this area of life and get success. And finally, if you're someone who's gotten to the point of, look, I want to get this area of my life finally handled, come. I promise you a transformational experience. I promise you. That's I've been doing this for 30 years now. If I wasn't passionate about it and didn't really believe in it, I wouldn't be doing it. And these seminars, I have to tell you, are not a big moneymaker for me. Trust me, I have other things that I'm doing with my time. Are making me a lot more money. A lot more money.
Yeah, live events don't scale, so I know firsthand what you're talking about. Yeah.
But also, if I've had offers to do retreats for entrepreneurs who are willing to pay me $5,000 for a weekend each. So I'm getting offers now to get like groups of 25 entrepreneurs to teach me to be taught persuasion at $5,000 a pop. So do the math there. That's a lot of change in my pocket. And I love talking to the audience as a brand new topic. So these are not money makers to me. The more I build out that other business, the less frequently I'll do them. Or it may get to the point where I'm making so much money, I do them virtually, but this is 5 years down the road. I may be too old to do them. I'll be 60 next year. I don't know how much longer I can do them. And I have no successor. This is one of the errors in my business model because I made it so much a passion project of mine.
You can still reproduce, Ross. Not too late, man. You're male. You got a wide reproductive window.
Oh, no. I mean, I have no heir to my business. I have no one I've trained to take over the teaching.
That's what I'm saying. You could make one. Just kind of teasing, but yeah.
Maybe I can. So anyway, I encourage everyone to come. We have sold about 30 seats. I'm keeping it to 50, so we have 20 left. Anthony, you know me now as a friend and a teacher. Can you give me your vouch as a sincere guy who really wants to help people, or not? If you don't believe it, then tell people.
Not 100% sure what you're asking, but I think men should do this, if that answers the question. I haven't been to the workshop myself. Otherwise, I would endorse it or not endorse it. but I haven't been.
You've
Yeah,
met me.
100%, yes. Yep. So I would say anybody who's watching this is interested, you should definitely give it a shot. I've met Ross. He's been at the convention. All of our attendees met him. All the speakers met him. I think it's a good idea, 100%. If anything that Ross is saying is intriguing to you, do it flat out. The link's underneath the video. So look at it, read through it,
Right
give it a
near,
shot.
one of the things, it's convenient because we're doing it right near LAX. So it's like a 5-minute drive from Los Angeles International Airport. And it's in Culver City, which is about 10 minutes from the beach. And I wouldn't know why anyone in their right mind would want to go to Hollywood. It's a dump, but it's about a 40-minute drive to Hollywood. And so I hope to see you all there. If anything I've said has touched you, if you can feel my sincerity coming through.
Exactly.
So give me the opportunity to transform and to teach and to heal. And I hope to see you there. And thank you for the opportunity to address the audience. I hope they have some tangible takeaways from this, regardless of whether I see them there or they make.
I think the comments have been coming through in the live stream. A couple guys. One guy was actually asking, "Is your book going to be on Audible?" I would imagine at some point, but not right away.
I have to get it published and put up on Amazon, and then I'll put it on Audible. But I don't know that procedure or how long that'll take.
Yeah, I'm sure it takes everyone time, any author. So, but yeah.
I need to shoot here. My cat is demanding attention, but it's been wonderful addressing the audience. And would you do me one last final favor?
Sure thing.
Would you please say hello to Socrates personally and tell him I miss him and would love to talk to him sometime?
I will. I see him all the time, so definitely will do.
He has my phone number, I think. If not, pass it on to him because I'd really love to chat with him.
Will do. Hey, I think he'd love to talk to you. He had a good time.
Okay. All right. Thanks much.
But did you have one more question? I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Go ahead. Do we have any more questions in the chat or?
No, I thought you were asking me something. But the comments are just kind of following along what we're saying. So
good. I hope they're good comments. No one's calling me too big an a-hole.
No, they're pretty good. They're saying you're a legend, feminism's a Trojan horse, stuff like that.
True that. Yeah. All right. Thank you. I'm running.
Absolutely. Ross, thanks for hopping on the show today. Everyone, thanks for tuning in live. If you want to attend the workshop with Ross Jeffries, check out the link beneath this video. Just click here to learn more with Ross. Everyone else, appreciate your time, and see you in the next episode of 21 Live. Thanks, Ross.